got some brand new polling in the race for the White House, and they focus on the dozen swing states across the country that could decide this election. In Nevada, for example, a state with 6 electoral votes up for grabs, a survey commissioned by the Las Vegas Review-Journal and KLAS-TV shows that President Obama has a slight lead there, 47 to 45%. But the poll also shows that voters seem evenly divided on Governor Romney's VP pick. Congressman Paul Ryan joining us now. Bernard Whitman, a former pollster for President Clinton and the author of 52 Reasons to Vote for Obama, and Scott Rasmussen, an independent pollster and president of the RasmussenReports.com group. Great to have both of you here today.
Thank you.
When you see these polls at the moment, the latest polls in these swing states, what is the biggest thing that jumps out at you knowing that the race is tightening up?
The biggest thing that jumps out at me is all the new swing states are states that we thought a little while ago were pretty safe for President Obama. So the race is becoming a little more competitive for Mitt Romney, and that's probably good if you're a Republican because Romney was trailing in the Electoral College. But we're talking now about Las Vegas as a swing state, Wisconsin as a swing state. Some people think Michigan and Pennsylvania might be in play. I think that's a reach. These are states that would not have been contested or thought to be contested early in the year.
And the effect of Paul Ryan at this point, we're showing that in some polls it hasn't had much of an effect in some areas, but how do you think it's playing out in the swing states at this point?
I think ultimately the Ryan pick will hurt the Romney ticket, and here's why. I think that voters, particularly in Florida, are going to reject the Romney-Ryan plan to end Medicare. They're going to reject the Romney-Ryan plan to cut education. And I think ultimately the Ryan pick has taken the Republicans off message. And instead of focusing on the economy where they like to have a debate, we're talking about Medicare, we're talking about abortion, we're talking about a woman's right to choose, not simply reproductive and health care choices, but economic opportunity. And so I think that could cost him Florida. And the problem with that is, if Romney does not win Florida, he has to win every other battleground state, or he loses the election. And at this point, I think Virginia, being potentially a new bellwether state taking over from the role that Missouri had, Virginia is likely to go to Barack Obama.
Well, that's very interesting. And though, you know, gentlemen, we're right now in August, of course, and so many people are just not paying attention. Yet you are seeing that the polls are tightening up. Given that fact, going forward, the stakes remain quite high because we could see a lot of movement once the fall kicks in.
Well, let's be real clear about what's been happening. We track this race every single day, and while there have been occasional blips, for the last 8 weeks, there hasn't been any really significant movement. One of the reasons is only about 8 or 10% of the voters are uncommitted in any way. And the most significant fact about those uncommitted voters, they're not paying attention. Only 13% of the uncommitted voters are following the campaign right now. So there will be changes. We have the conventions coming up. We have the debates coming up. We have economic news. That will shift. And what I would expect to see is whatever shift you see in the national numbers, you will see the same shift in these swing states. In other words, if President Obama does 5 points better nationally, you'll see him doing better in Virginia and Las Vegas. If Mitt Romney does 5 points better, you'll see him doing better in places like Virginia.
And the uncommitted voters, though, they're key in these swing states at this point.
Absolutely. And in fact, we're really not having a national campaign. We're having a national conversation. But ultimately, this campaign comes down to really 50 counties where the swing voters in those counties will ultimately decide the election. And I think that we're going to see a pretty locked up race, statistically tied from now through mid-September. I would expect after Tampa next week, Romney will get a bounce. After the convention in Charlotte, Obama will get a bounce.
Yeah, they bounce.
But then it's going to be sort of settle into mid-September. We'll see where the new polls are, and then ultimately it's going to be the debates throughout October that will define where the race sits.
But I know you're tracking it every day.
We are tracking it every day and every moment. And you know, right now the conversation is Paul Ryan. Some other days it'll be different. At the end of the day, this is a choice between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, mostly a referendum on the president, and that's the reason it's close, because people are evenly divided on the president.
All right, gentlemen, we have to end the conversation there, but I know that you guys are watching this very, very closely, and we love getting your insights. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.